We've made it to Friday. It's weather for Weather Geeks time. Lots and lots of stuff to get through today. So let's get right to it. Wanted to show you the path that our Sunday system is going to take, because it's always kind of cool to look at this. Possible, real disruptive storm on Sunday. Even though it's not going to be a huge storm, it's going to cause some disruptions, and it's just fun to think that it's this little piece of energy right out here over the northwestern Pacific. And as I roll this forward, what we're looking at here is the what we call the 500 millibar, which is a height of about 18,000 feet up in the atmosphere. This is not as high as the planes fly, but it's a good level to look at for picking out disturbances or vorticity. Vorticity is spinning of air parcels. And anyway, just kind of fancy meteorological jargon. We're going to keep an eye on this area right in through here as it goes over the ridge and then dives down into parts of the central and eastern U.S. It's going to take a ride up over the ridge, just like this. Here it goes. Apologize if some of this is a little slow to load. By tomorrow morning, our disturbance is going to be right here. That's this little kink right here, kind of some greenish colors. It's rounding the top of the ridge and getting set to head down the sliding board into the U.S. And by tomorrow evening, it'll be right here. So in the course of about 24 hours, it traveled from here up over the top, down into here, and by tomorrow night, it'll continue kind of going down that sliding board out of the northern tier of states, and by Sunday, our storm day, kind of centered right here over St. Louis. Now, the trend, I got to tell you, for the midday modeling, has been to push this farther and farther south. If you watched the news last night, I showed a map where I showed 3 scenarios. A far northern scenario, which wouldn't bring us much snow at all, a scenario in which the system goes kind of right over us, which would bring us some snow, but not a lot, and then a southern solution, which would probably be the sweet spot for us to pick up, maybe 5-6 inches of snow. Well, what I didn't show was this idea, which brings it even farther south, in fact, so far south now on some of the modeling that it would suggest that if you live north of I-80, this probably is nothing more than a nuisance. Now, let me tell you why I'm not ready to bite on that just yet. If you read my blog post this morning, and if you followed my posts over the last couple of days, when things are still over the ocean, they're not being sampled by weather balloons over the U.S. Once a system gets over, and Canada as well, I should say, once the system gets over land, the network of weather balloons will be able to sample it. That data gets ingested into the models, and that makes the models more reliable. They have more information baked into them. And so while our disturbance is still out over here, I'm not sure if I buy the song that the models are singing right now, which at midday, each model has driven the storm farther and farther south. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that I wouldn't be shocked if tonight's models waffled again and came back a little farther to the north and put us kind of in the sweet spot. So not ready to give up on this storm being a possible 5 or 6 inch storm just yet. Not ready to give up on that, but certainly the morning modeling suggests that the farther north you live away from Youngstown, maybe an increased chance that this is not much of a significant storm at all. So stay tuned. I've been telling you since yesterday, this forecast is not etched in stone. It's not written on a tablet. You got to check back often. You got to get my stuff on Facebook and Twitter. You've got to watch the news, because these things evolve. Don't just think that a forecast that we go out with on Thursday is going to stay the same through Sunday, because the meteorology can change sometimes, and we got to keep up with those changes and not be stubborn. Sometimes meteorologists can be stubborn and stick to a forecast that ultimately is not going to work out, so we try to avoid that. Back to the near term real quick. We're around 30 this afternoon, and while it's not exactly bright and sunny, we've had some intervals of sun after a cloudy start. We told you that would happen. Let's take a quick peek at tomorrow as we kick off the weekend here. It's going to be a pretty uneventful Saturday, I think, unlike our neighbors to the east, which will be dealing with a pretty decent-sized storm, an East Coast storm that will not end up bringing too many places more than 6 or 7 inches, I would suspect, except maybe up in southern New England. But certainly it'll be a travel disruptor kind of a storm during the course of tomorrow. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to show. Let's show this. Show the simulated radar tomorrow morning. Here's our storm on the East Coast. It is going to be rain for the most part at the coast, and then you will find snow the farther west you are, kind of This zone through here, West Virginia, Panhandle of Maryland, southeastern PA, northwestern Jersey, up into the Hudson Valley, into southern parts of New England. That's your sweet spot for snow. With the Saturday system, for us, as we get into the afternoon, the model isn't showing a whole lot here. Let me go back to the simulated radar. But I do think as a little front slips in, there's going to be some scattered flurries around tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. This is non-accumulating type snow, just, decorative type of thing. So I'm not expecting too many problems on the roads tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. Our problems come in on Sunday. All right, I'm going to show two models at the same time here for Sunday. This is the GFS. Both of these are US-produced models. Here's the GFS, here's the NAM. Notice the placement of the low here Sunday morning. On the NAM, it's right over Chicago. On the GFS, it's more over the Quad Cities or just north of St. Louis. Now, that might not sound like a big difference, but ultimately it can make a big difference because watch by Sunday evening. Here's the GFS, low over Louisville. NAM, low over Parkersburg, Marietta, maybe over towards Morgantown. And that will go a long way towards determining where the heavy snow is, because the heavy snow is going to be in a band just north of the center of low pressure. So if this idea on the NAM were to be believed, for Sunday evening, your low is right here, your heaviest snow is I-70, maybe up to Route 30, kind of the I-70 to Route 30 corridor. That's if that track is to be believed. Now you bump that low north 40 miles, not much, 40 miles maybe. If it tracks north 40 miles than this model is showing, that brings the sweet spot of heavier snow up to maybe 224 or maybe even I-80. So real subtle differences in the exact track can make a big difference. That's why this is a tough forecast. That's why you got to check back often, because this is a tricky scenario. So again, two models with some different ideas here. The overall idea is that the center of the low, the center of the storm, is going to pass to our south. It's just a matter of how far to the south. Too far south, not going to be a big storm for us. Just far enough south, could be a pretty sizable storm. Now here's the Canadian model. Let's go forward to Sunday here. Here's Sunday evening, the Canadian. A little bit slower than the NAM, certainly. It has it kind of back almost towards Louisville, similar to the GFS. Again, the NAM was kind of like this by Sunday evening. GFS and Canadian back here towards Louisville. The European model also has taken a bit of a southward dip. It's kind of in here as well, maybe around Cincinnati. The European is still the model of choice if you're a snow lover, because it is a little farther north than the other modeling. Again, it all is going to come down to the exact track as to where the sweet spot of snow is. Everyone's going to see some snow Sunday. It's just a matter of, do you get in the sweet spot or not? Is this going to be a nuisance, or is it enough to shovel and plow? And is it enough to be one of our bigger storms of the year? Because the potential is there for a widespread 5, maybe even 6-inch snowfall if the sweet spot is over the valley. If that's what you're wishing for, you got to root for the European model, which is a little farther north. But it might be a real close call. The sweet spot could be in Wheeling and Canton, but not in Salem or Youngstown. Here's the SRF, 21 members of this model. Here's the average right in the middle, or this dark line right here. The range of ideas on this model is 0 to about 5 inches, with the average solution about 2 inches for the Youngstown-Warren Airport. That's, of course, in southeastern Trumbull County. So what do I think we're going to go out with this evening as far as a forecast? I'm going to draw a map that's, based on the current information, is going to look kind of like this. Here's your 1-inch line right here, taking you through extreme northeast Ohio, northwest PA. Then we're going to probably have a 3 to 5 zone that is sort of maybe something roughly like this. Youngstown right here. So again, this isn't set in stone, but as it stands right now, I would probably I might even bring the 3 to 5 up to about 224, maybe Youngstown. So let's say that. Let me redraw this so it's not confusing. We're going to probably have a 3 to 5 area up to about Youngstown, Toledo, down to about Columbus, kind of like this, 3 to 5. So I-80 north, we're probably going to have in the 1 to 3 zone. So if you live up in Mespo or over towards Sharon and Mercer, Greenville, places like that, you're probably going to be right on the border of that 1 to 3, 3 to 5 zone. But a solid 3 to 5 for Columbiana County, down into Lawrence County as well, at least the southern half of it. That's probably what we're going to say as far as accumulations as it stands right now. So not a huge storm, but one of the bigger ones we've had this year. Real quick look at the long range. The next cold snap's coming in 2 chunks. The first chunk is behind our clipper during the first half of next week. Tuesday could be a day where we stay in the teens, but then we are going to warm up as we head towards Thursday ahead of the next front. Thursday we could sneak to around freezing, and then behind that front, the next batch of cold comes down for Super Bowl weekend, and we could spend a lot of time in the single digits and teens, it looks like, for next weekend. The big game here on NBC, of course, is next Sunday the 1st. So late next weekend and next weekend, cold early next week, and then midweek, little reprieve from the cold. All right, thanks for sticking with me on this long weather for Weather Geeks. Again, stay tuned. Things can change. I'll have your forecast tonight. If you're up tomorrow morning, be sure and check out Andrew's fresh updates on WFMJ Weekend Today. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Friday.